What's up, everyone? How y'all doing today? Welcome back. Today is March 12th of 2025, and today, a pretty fun video for myself here as we talk about the return of my new favorite sport, Formula One. Kicking things off at the Albert Park circuit in Melbourne, Australia this year. Normally, F1 visits the Middle East for the first couple of weeks, but for the first time in a while, they are running the first Grand Prix of the year in Australia. Now, last year, I had an unusual amount of success wagering on F1. When I started following the sport, I had no intention of placing bets at any point, but at some point I thought maybe I started to get a hang of what's going on out there on the circuit. Now, I certainly do not expect the same type of success this year, but the numerology in this sport is truly fascinating, no matter whether you're a sports bettor or just someone who's interested in numbers. And right off the bat, for the first week of the year, we have a pretty incredible riddle to talk about. So, 2025 kicks off March 16th. F1 World Championship getting underway. And what we're going to talk about in this video is the tremendous connections that this race has to a couple of the drivers on the grid and to the big Kobe Bryant riddle that we've been talking about really all year, ever since the LA wildfires, all of these various air disasters. Now, on my channel, I have a playlist for all the videos I made on F1 races last year. There's 18 videos in here, which is pretty good considering there's only 24 races in the season. Another playlist I put together is the Kobe Bryant playlist. And towards the bottom of this one, you'll see some really recent decodes explaining how Kobe Bryant has been a very important character to what's been going on in the news since the turn of the year. And when you look at the numerical connections between the drivers this year and Kobe, you find something truly fascinating. So let's talk about how this connects to the greater NASCAR riddle that's been going on as well. Remember, this past weekend, driver Christopher Bell won his third straight NASCAR Cup Series race. And I have a couple of videos on that as well. These are also linked in the description. I first talked about Christopher Bell in this video before he won his first race. And then I did this follow-up decode after he won 3 in a row. This first he won was the only NASCAR race so far this year that I called correctly. So I was on it before it started. And we're going to try to do that with F1 again. Like I always say, all predictions wrong or your money back. As I don't charge for sports picks. I don't have that much confidence in them. But we're definitely onto something with this sport. So let's talk about this year's Formula One World Championship and how it connects to various codes I've been discussing. So this year marks the start of the 76th F1 Championship. They're also calling this F1 75 because it's the 75th anniversary of the first season. So we'll look at both of these numbers, but we'll start off with 76. Now, as I've been discussing with the Christopher Bell victories in NASCAR, this has all been a riddle connected to Chris Benoit. Remember Chris Benoit found dead in his home along with 2 family members, much like Gene Hackman, who was also found dead with his wife and a dog. That dog was a German Shepherd, and back in 2007, 2 German Shepherds owned by the Benoit family survived that tragedy. Now, Chris Benoit was born on May 21st of 1967. Exactly 76 years to the day after the death of Alfonso Taft. Alfonso Taft is one of the 2 primary founders of the Skull and Bones Society. William Huntington Russell and Alfonso Taft, the 2 founders. So Taft dies on May 21st, which is the same date that Chris Benoit was born. And this happened exactly 76 years after Alfonso died. In Gematria, the name Christopher is 76, so is Chris Benoit. Human sacrifice and blood sacrifice, both 76. And in reverse reduction, skull and bones equals 76. Now, obviously, Chris Benoit, a pro wrestler, pro wrestling matches beginning and ending with 3 rings of the bell. And we just had 3 wins by bell. And if you watch this video, you'll see how it's connected to not just WWE, but also AEW, as this race was in Phoenix on the same day that AEW wrestler Edge, who is married to Beth Phoenix, fought for the AEW championship. So there's a lot to unpack there. If you missed those videos, definitely check them out. But this has been a big part of what's going on with NASCAR, the 76. Now, Chris Benoit and his family died in the state of Georgia. That GA there stands for Georgia for anyone who's not in the United States. And I guess some of you who are in the United States. And what's interesting about this 76 alignment with the state of Georgia, back on July 6th, or 7/6, a couple years ago, the Georgia Guidestones were destroyed in the state of Georgia. This happened on the 76th birthday of former President George W. Bush, who was born on 7/6. George W. Bush, a former member of Skull and Bones and graduate of Yale University. Of course, the last president to be in office from this special secret society. Now, as far as 2022, the year the Guidestones were destroyed, Skull and Bones also equals 2022. And a big character in this race this weekend is going to be Oscar Piastri, who made his debut on the F1 grid in 2022. Or maybe it was 2023. Yeah, actually it was 2023, so scratch that. But we are going to talk about Piastri anyway. Now, when Christopher Bell won his first of 3 races, he did so in the state of Georgia, not far from where Benoit died. That was the Embeddor 400 in Atlanta. Now, when we look at Christopher Bell, notice how he was born on 12/16 of 1994. And this is interesting. The digits 12/16 came up last year in my decode on Oscar Piastri winning his first ever Grand Prix. Now, the name Oscar Piastri is really similar to the name Oscar Pistorius, an Olympic sprinter. Remember, his legs were missing, so they called him the Blade Runner. In 2013, Pistorius murdered his girlfriend and got out of jail just last year. Now, when you look at the full gematria of Oscar Pistorius' name, you get 12/16 in Latin. And when Oscar Piastri won his first ever race, it was his 1216th week since birth. So this is just one of many connections we'll draw to Christopher Bell, born on 12/16 throughout this video. Now back to this whole riddle with 76 years. 76 years is also equivalent to 912 months. So isn't it interesting that the name Oscar Piastri equals 76, while Oscar Pistorius equals 912? Well, not only is this F1's 76th season, but it's also being called F1 75. Again, the 75th anniversary. Notice how 75 has matching 912 gematria with Home Grand Prix. This is relevant because Oscar Piastri is from Melbourne, Australia, literally just miles from this circuit. And he may be looking to win his home Grand Prix. If you measure between the birthdays of Oscar Piastri and Oscar Pistorius, you get exactly a span of 750 weeks. Ideal for a season called F175, which starts in Australia. Pistorius from South Africa, which is of course also deep in the southern hemisphere. Kind of looks like Pistorius is even reaching for a gun there, doesn't it? But we're going to talk about also how this all connects to Kobe, because the name Kobe equals 75 in reverse Gematria. Also, in regards to 76 years, it's also worth noting that 76 years is a ecliptic cycle. A ecliptic cycle also marks 4 metonic cycles. And the name ecliptic draws parallels to the Greek god Calypso, which equals 624. Back in 2006, Kobe Bryant scored 81 points in a game. And 81 also equals 624. So we'll see how this links up shortly. So F175 kicks off in Australia exactly 75 weeks after Yale University's special anniversary. This race also falls on the 75th day of the year. And in a little bit, we'll see the massive riddle that connects the Ferrari drivers. Ferrari summing to 75. So 75 weeks after Yale's special anniversary. Well, what are we talking about here? Back in the year 2023, Yale, home to Order 322, or the Skull and Bone Society, turned 322 years old. And appropriately, in Gematria, skull and crossbones equals 223. So this was a huge date for Yale and Skull and Bones. And again, it was exactly 75 weeks before F175 kicks off on the 75th day of the year. Measuring from the birthday of Kobe Bryant to Oscar Piastri is 22 years, 32 weeks, and 2 days. So in this measurement, we have both a 223 and a 322. So what is this all about? This coming Friday, actually 2 days from now, we have a total lunar eclipse on Pi Day. Pi Day, or 314, like the first 3 digits of pi. And these numbers of skull and bones all connect back to the circle. Notice how the word circle has gematria of both 223 and 322 in alternate methods. Both of these numbers have ordinal gematria of 314. Now, these are the first 2 numbers that sum to 314. However, if you exclude the word and, the first number with 314 gematria is 777. And look at how these numbers connect easily to the 777s. So 2 days after the Pi Day eclipse is when the F1 season starts. And look at this. Back when Oscar Pistorius shot and killed his girlfriend through the bathroom door, I mean, what a ridiculous act that was. That happened when Oscar Pistorius was 314 months old. The shooting on Valentine's Day was also 314 days after Oscar Piastri's birthday. And measuring from the birthdays of Kobe Bryant to Oscar Pistorius is 3,014 days. So this is a remarkable alignment between these three men. Now, the 314th prime number is 2083. This is the Latin gematria of the number 666 when you spell it out. And really, 666 is the absolutely massive number that we'll be looking at. You may remember that last year in the 2024 F1 World Championship, the Constructors' Championship was won by McLaren, who finished the season with a total of 666 points. And the number 666 is very significant to the Skull and Bones Society. Of course, Oscar Piastri, one of the two McLaren drivers, along with Lando Norris. The number 666 is also connected to the circle, mathematics of the circle, mathematical perfection, and perfection, all summing to 666. When you add the gematria of the four base ciphers and write out Brotherhood of Death, adding these four methods together, you get a gematria value of 666. Furthermore, the Brotherhood of Death sums to 724, like Number of the Beast. When Piastri won his first Grand Prix last year, it was in July of 24, or 7/24. I also did a video on that race. The reason I connected it to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris is because this race was within a day of Joe Biden dropping out of his race. And in doing so, he passed the torch to Kamala. Well, in order to win the race in Hungary, Lando Norris had to pass the torch to his teammate. Norris was leading the race at the end, but was ordered to give the lead back to Piastri, thus passing the torch. And that was right before the Olympics began as well. And of course, we had the fire at Notre Dame in Paris in 2019. And then we had the Olympic torch passed to Los Angeles. And then we had the wildfires in Los Angeles in January. So this was all part of that overarching theme. Now, the big 666 riddle goes through the biggest story in Formula One this year, as seven-time world champion Lewis Hamilton takes his talents to Ferrari, where he will be teaming up with Charles Leclerc. And I don't think it's a coincidence that Lewis Hamilton sums to 322 in this mirror cipher, which I barely ever talk about, but I do think there's some relevance to it. Hamilton's last teammate was named Russell, which also equals 322. And I mention Russell because the other co-founder of the Skull and Bones Society was also named Russell, William Russell. Hamilton's last teammate was George William Russell. All right, so there's obviously a Skull and Bones thing going on here. So let's look at how the number 666 is coded into the Ferrari team. Remember, they're calling this season F1 75. And Ferrari has the 75 in ordinal. Measuring between the birthdays of Lewis Hamilton and his new teammate Charles Leclerc, you get 666 weeks, or 4,666 days. When Lewis Hamilton announced that he was moving to Ferrari last year, that was on February 1st. And Lewis Hamilton has been a character in the Black Lives Matter movement. He made a lot of statements several years ago about protecting black people and all this stuff, taking knees and whatnot. Well, when Hamilton announced his move, it was exactly 666 months after the end of the civil rights movement in the United States. This weekend's race in Australia falls exactly 999 weeks after Kobe Bryant scored 81 points, the second most points in a single game in NBA history. And those 81 points connect us to Oscar Piastri, who drives the number 81 car. Now, when Oscar Piastri won his first race last year, in 2024, I talked about how it was connected to Joe Biden. And look how old Joe Biden was for that race. 81 years, 8 months, and 1 day of age. I believe it's President Biden that sums to 81 in multiple ciphers. So the same weekend Biden dropped out of the race is when Piastri first won. And of course, Kobe Bean Bryant, his full name, sums to 81 in multiple ciphers. So look at this. Kobe Bryant and Charles Leclerc were born 999 weeks apart. This is also 256 sidereal months, and that's the Latin gematria of 666. Charles Leclerc was 99 months and 6 days old for Kobe's 666th game. That's right. Kobe scored 81 points in his 666th game ever. What are the odds of this, right? And there's several articles about this. Kobe Bryant even had a 666 workout. No man is coded with that number more than Kobe Bryant. The name Oscar Pistorius sums to both 666 and 667. And check out how old Oscar Pistorius will be this weekend. He turns 1,999 weeks old 1 day before the race. The name Pistorius sums to 688, which matches Kobe's Brown lunation number, 688. This weekend marks F1's 1126th Grand Prix. This is similar to Kobe Bryant's death date, 126, which was the 26th day of the year. Sunday's race happens 26 weeks after Piastri's last win in Azerbaijan. 75 equals 2060. Kobe played his whole career on the Lakers. Lakers in sacrifice, 206, while 75 is 2060. And when Kobe Bryant played his 666th game, it was in the year 2006. Now, these 666 connections continue. This all means that this Sunday, Charles Leclerc will be the exact same age that Kobe Bryant was when he scored 81 points. 27 years and 5 months old. In fact, Leclerc was 27 years and 5 days old when he won his last race in Texas. 275 is the ordinal gematria of the number 666. I mean, this is insane. Like, I don't even know how to quantify the unlikelihood of all of this coming together in one weekend. This race is also 238 days after Piastri's first win, and 666 equals 2038. So what you're looking at essentially here is a double riddle. I don't know which one of these drivers is going to win the race, Leclerc or Piastri. Hell, maybe neither of them win the race. But it's more proof that F1 is scripting their Grand Prix by the numbers. And this all goes back to last season, the number 666. You know, I literally have a playlist where this is the number of focus in the first and last video I did on F1 last year. And of course, this is all connected to Trump, right? Because beast equals 47. He's the 47th president. Trump is 47. Trump took office exactly 666 weeks after the moon landing, Apollo 11. Now, in the King James Version, this number is spelled out as 603 score and 6, which equals 313. This race is exactly 313 weeks after Leclerc's first Grand Prix victory. Actually, no, I'm sorry. It's 313 weeks after his Ferrari debut for the Tifosi. It'll also be 313 days after the anniversaries of Kobe's big game. And look how old Kobe was. You know, we looked at the 3014 earlier, but if you exclude the end date, Kobe was 3,013 days old when Oscar Pistorius was born. When Pistorius murdered his girlfriend, it was 2,580 days or 7 years and 24 days after Kobe's big game. Both of these three-digit numbers are found in the Gematria of Number of the Beast. 57, another number connected to this code. The race is exactly 5 years and 7 weeks after Kobe died, and it's also 5 months and 7 days before his birthday. It's also been 57 weeks since the new Kobe Bryant statue was unveiled in Los Angeles. Remember last year, Kobe Bryant's father passed away, Jelly Bean Bryant? Well, that happened 244 days before the season kicks off. And remember, 244 is connected to 666 in the digits of pi. Leclerc won his first Grand Prix on the 244th day of the year and then won another race on that same day last year. Kobe's best game was on 1/22, January 22nd. This is 666 with the S exception. So just demonstrating how there's so much lining up with this number. Trying to think about where to go next. Oh, I have a few more notes that connect back to some of my more recent decodes. So the last video I did on my channel was the death of a ghost from the Harry Potter movie in 2001, Simon Fisher Becker. And this was all synced up with the World Trade Center and the 9/11 code. And one of the numbers I talked about a lot in that video was 1110. This was the release date of the film that Simon Fisher Becker starred in, and is a number that's supremely connected to 9/11 and his character, the Fat Friar, 1110. Now, this weekend, Oscar Piastri will be 11 months and 10 days after his birthday. Piastri will also be 1,249 weeks old for the race. Now, back last year in the month of January, that happened. Oh, snap. I just lost connection, so my OBS just gave me an alert. May have been a little hiccup in the stream there, but it was very quick. I think I'm back already. So I suppose I'll just keep going here. Now, what I just said before my little hiccup there was Piastri is 1,249 weeks old this weekend. And Oscar Pistorius was released from prison in January of last year. And notice the lunation number, 1249, that he got out of prison. I thought that was a little bit interesting. And, however, this date definitely connects to the race. Thanks, Zenith, for the confirmation. And also, great comment on my last video. I might touch on that real quick. But there's definitely a connection to Pistorius getting out of jail and this race. Check this out. Measuring from the date that Pistorius was released to the race is 1 year, 2 months, and 12 days, okay? Now, this is really interesting because if you also measure from the date he murdered Riva Steenkamp, you get 12 years, 1 month, and 2 days. 12-12, again. And do you want to guess what his name equals? Well, I'm not going to make you do that. I'll just type it out. It sums to 12-12. Oscar Pistorius, 12-12. Total solar eclipse also equals 12-12. This race falls 343 days after the Great American Total Eclipse. And look at these names. Charles Leclerc and Oscar Jack Piastri both equal 343. These are the only drivers on the grid with this Gematria. In fact, Leclerc and Piastri share a lot of numbers together. This 12-12 is also the reverse Sumerian Gematria of Skull and Bones. The Skull and Bones Secret Society is headquartered at 64 High Street, over there in New Haven, Connecticut. And we see this right here on trusty Wikipedia, 64 High Street. Oscar Piastri was born on the 6th of April, or 6/4. And bear with me a second, I was missing something on that slide. When Oscar Piastri raced in his first ever F1 Grand Prix, it was on the 64th day of the year. When you write out Skull and Bones, it equals 604, so does Secret Society 640 in Satanic. 64 is the product of 32 times 2. And not only does this guy have the 6/4 birthday, and by the way, I have the other 6/4 birthday, June 4th, okay? So just throwing that out there. But he was also born in 2001. And what happened in 2001? Well, of course, that was the year of the major Skull and Bones ritual human sacrifice on the date 9/11. And we all know what happened on that date, right? American Airlines. Now, I'll be honest, I was actually going to animate this airplane going into the building, but I thought that might be a little bit insensitive. I mean, what kind of weirdo would do that, right? Screw it. Yeah, Oscar's out of here for this. I mean, I'm going to hell anyway, right? Oh, no, is that a United airplane? Please, no. This is... Okay, good. That would have been ridiculous. Oh no! All right, we're done. We're done with the slides. This is what happens when I get a little too carried away with the numbers. So this 12-12 alignment, though, really stands out with me with Oscar Pistorius and telling us that Piastri will be a riddle for this race. But between these two drivers, I guess it's a pick'em. Leclerc and Piastri. The way I see it personally is that Leclerc has the more direct numerical alignments, being the exact same age as Kobe Bryant. But just in my experience looking at these races, I feel like this is the too obvious part, right? You have to go the extra step and go to Oscar Piastri, who drives the 81 car, the number of points Kobe scored in that game. That's just my opinion. Now, I don't want anyone going out there and losing a crap ton of money on this race. This is just for fun. This is just for a little bit of extra curiosity in the sports. But I do think that the Aussie native has a really good chance to win his home Grand Prix. And here's another big reason I think why, okay? And this is probably pretty important. Charles Leclerc, the other driver we're talking about here, Leclerc is from Monaco. Last year, he won his home Grand Prix, the Monaco Grand Prix, becoming the first driver to do so in like 93 years, I think it was, or nearly a century. Now, that race was held on May 26th of last year. And if you measure to Oscar Piastri's home Grand Prix on Sunday, you get 294 days. 294. Like 600, 3score, with the ampersand. Or 666, also 294. So in regards to all of these 666 alignments, you realize this is just pointing back to Leclerc's home Grand Prix victory 294 days earlier, and now we get Piastri in his. So, just speculation. This is also 42 weeks, which is the beast ruling for 42 months in the book of Revelation. This post also has some more notes. We're already well over a half hour in this video, though. When you look at Christopher Bell, the NASCAR driver who's won 3 straight, Oscar Piastri is exactly 329 weeks younger than Bell. This was another number connected to Kobe, who was 329 months old when he scored 81 points, and now Charles Leclerc will be 3. All right, OBS tells me it's back. Apparently my internet is connected again. It's weird. At my house, every couple of weeks I'll lose internet just after midnight. Like within 10 minutes of midnight, I'll lose internet. And I'll have to replug my router in. But that's never happened during the day before. And here it happened a little bit after noon today, which I thought was really strange. So if you're watching archived and don't know what the hell just happened, my internet got completely cut out. And yeah, that hasn't happened during a live stream of mine in years. Zenith, you've been around for a while. You may remember that I was doing live streams, and I had like 6 or 7 live streams in a row that were completely cut out. And I would have to reconnect my internet. And then I went on this big rant and started swearing at the people doing it, and then it stopped. It was the weirdest thing. And that was the last time I can remember actually losing my internet during a stream. So I'd like to think that someone is sending me a clue. Like, oh, you're so on it with this one that we're going to cut your internet and, cut your ability to speak. But this is exactly why I don't encourage people to go betting lots of money on these sports, because someone knows that we're onto this and that, I destroyed this sport last year. Just to, I'm going to throw it back up on the screen here, just so you guys can see. Let's see, single full transition. There we go. So I started betting about halfway through the season last year, and I lost. But then the guy I bet on won a couple weeks later, Lewis Hamilton. So I was like, okay, maybe I got this. And then I won let's see, I went 6-4 in the rest of the races, just picking winners, and it was 6 different winners. One of these was won on a hedge, but it still counts, right? But I made 47 Bennett units in 11 races, which is insane. Now, of course, like I said, I don't expect that type of same success again. I might have to change this pick because that was before I traced the riddle through Piastri. Yeah, I mean, we'll give it a crack again this year. We did win a NASCAR race out of the 4 that have happened, but looks like I still got some more work to do in that sport. My spreadsheet is a little out of control this year. It's got all the drivers' ages in every imaginable format, as well as the number of days and weeks since their, last win, their first win, things of that nature. So again, we're digging deep. We're in the weeds. This is how we do it here on this channel. Yeah, a Wednesday, right? Mercury, Woden's Day. That would happen on a Wednesday, wouldn't it? It was funny because right before my internet went out, they were testing the bomb sirens, which are really loud by my house. You could probably even hear them on the microphone. But at noon every Wednesday they run those sirens, and I just keep thinking, man, like, if you're gonna bomb us, you might as well do it at noon on a Wednesday because no one would know any different. Don't really do that though if you're a foreign operative listening to me right now. Rather that we stay safe. Okay, so that's pretty much all I got for you guys today. I just wanted to go through the preview. These videos aren't for everybody. I don't expect many people to watch these videos. But even if neither of those drivers win, you got to admit, the riddles that are playing out are truly fascinating.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Gematrinator 85 live stream. If you enjoyed what you saw, please like, share, subscribe, and click that bell for more notifications.
All right, well, I appreciate that. So yeah, that's about all I got. Peace, love, God bless. We'll talk to y'all next time. See ya.
See ya.